Hey guys, what's going on? This is Mike with Keller Williams on the Water. I'm so glad everybody's joining me today, and we have something really exciting that we're going to show you guys. And before we get right into it, I want to explain who this is for. This is really for anybody who's considering moving to Florida, whether you're really serious about it and it's just a matter of time for when you move to, maybe you're already actively searching for homes down here in Florida, or if you're just kicking around the idea of moving to Florida someday, maybe you're thinking of retiring in the near future. This video is absolutely for you. And the reason I say that is what we've done here in Sarasota, here in Southwest Florida with Keller Williams on the Water, specifically with Gary Turner and TeamTurner, is we've basically aggregated all of the best people in the industry that are, somewhat local to this area. So we have an incredible lender, we have an incredible real estate attorney, we have an incredible home inspector, an insurance agency, a property management company, and a contractor, and of course, a realtor. So we're really excited. We brought all these people together. We sat them down for a very long time. We asked them all sorts of questions, and then we've kind of put it all together and just pieced together only the most important information that is actually important to you as someone who is considering moving to Florida. And we've put this together sort of as an introduction. We really hope you enjoy it, and then if you have any follow-up questions, any of these people who have joined us for this interview would be happy to answer your questions. So that being said, the first person that we're going to interview is Gary Turner. He is the team leader of TeamTurner, a very great real estate team here at this brokerage. And, he has been in real estate for over 4 decades now. He's been a head of a large builder. He's been a developer. He owns a contracting company right now. He owns a property management company. Of course, this real estate team. He is arguably one of the most knowledgeable, real estate professionals in the state of Florida. So we're so excited. He's an organizer of this event, and we're going to interview him first. And I think he's going to have a lot of really good information for you. So here's Gary Turner. All right, tell us who you are and where you're from.
I'm Gary Turner. I'm a realtor. I'm also a general contractor. As a realtor, I'm a broker in 3 different companies and a team leader of 10 people on a sales team that represents people with listings and buyers looking to buy in Southwest Florida. As a general contractor, I'm the president of an 80-year-old general contracting company, Pegasus General Contractors.
So I know you've had a lot of different roles in real estate over the decades. Could you tell us a little bit about your history from when you started to up until this point?
As a builder, I've built almost 5,000 homes in my career. Currently, I am the president of an 80-year-old construction company, Pegasus General Contractors. And we specialize in custom homes and high-end remodeling in the Southwest area. Pegasus and myself have been licensed in 6 states, and we've worked as far east as the Virgin Islands and as far south as the Cayman Islands. But we no longer travel like that, so we're primarily in Southwest Florida now.
And so I know you had a lot of opportunities to move to pretty much anywhere you wanted to in Florida. Could you tell us a little bit about why you chose Sarasota?
I came to Sarasota as a developer. I was the director of a big company that had presence in 5 other states, and they wanted to be in Florida, and they gave me 6 months to decide where I wanted to be. At the time, I was the number 2 person in a home building and development company in Miami, Florida, and they gave me the opportunity to do a market research of the whole state of Florida, and I chose Sarasota to make my home and buy the first property to develop. The reason I did was because I'm from West Texas and I'm friendly, and the people that I felt like the people in Southwest Florida were friendly and very easy to engage, and I felt more comfortable with the not only the people, but I like the small town feel that Sarasota and the areas around Sarasota give you. And of course, Siesta Key Beach is one of the best beaches in the world.
Nice. And so fast forward to now, in this current market in Sarasota, a lot of people from up north might not know exactly what's going on. Could you catch us up to speed on what's going on right now in the real estate market locally?
Right now we're in what we call a seller's market, and that means that there's more buyers than there are sellers. And the sellers are very demanding. The sellers are typically selling their homes, 2 or 3 days on the market, multiple offers. Cash is king. There's ways that if you're doing financing that you can make your offer almost as interesting as cash. But 6 months ago, 70% of our transactions were cash. Now 90% of our transactions are either cash or they're financing without contingencies that make it almost as attractive as cash.
So given this situation right now in the market, is it safe to say that now more than ever that it's really important to have buyer representation that really know what they're talking about and can make you stand out?
Yes, I believe that if you're a buyer and whether you're new to the market or buying your second or third or fourth home, it's important that you have buyer representation from a licensed realtor. And I stress, I prefer that you would be represented by a realtor, not just a broker or a sales agent. And the reason for it is realtors belong to the National Association of Realtors, and they're held to a higher ethical standard. And you don't necessarily get the best representation if you go directly to a listing agent or a homeowner, because they basically have their interest foremost. When you're represented as a buyer by a buyer's agent, then their allegiance is to you, the buyer.
Could you touch a little bit about commissions and how they work in Florida, and then also the relationship between the buyer and the agent?
Typically, the seller pays all of the commission. So as a buyer, and you having representation by a buyer's agent, it's a free service to you. So that's another reason that you would want to take advantage of having a buyer's rep represent you.
Is there anything else you feel that, somebody watching this who's considering moving to Florida or has made their decision to move to Florida, is there anything really important, anything else that you would want to stress to them?
I think the most important thing to understand is there's a lot of people moving to Florida. And if you're seriously thinking about moving to Florida, whether it's next month or next year or 5 years from now, working with an agent now can save you a lot of time and effort in finding an area that you would like to be in. But most importantly, building a relationship with a realtor allows the realtor to get a taste for what you're looking for in either an investment property or your next home or next building. And sometimes I work with people that for 5 years before they make that decision. And after 5 years of sending them property and talking to them about what they're looking for, those needs and desires often change. And by having the foundation of what their basic property desire is very helpful for both parties.
So next on the list is Glenn Barich. Glenn is a lender with Bank of England. Bank of England has been around since the 1800s, and Glenn is actually the lender of choice for the brokerage here, Keller Williams on the Water in Sarasota. And this is one of the top market centers for Keller Williams in the nation. And we have over 200 agents at this office, and he's the one who works in this office. He's trusted by a lot of the best realtors at this brokerage, and he does a phenomenal job. He's been with Bank of England for 7 years. He's been in the industry as a loan officer here in Florida for 20 years. So Glenn definitely knows his stuff, and we're going to ask him some important questions, and we'll go ahead and play Glenn right now.
Good afternoon, Glenn. Appreciate you being here today, and I know that you're going to add a lot to this panel. Do you mind telling us a little bit about you and your company?
Yeah, so Bank of England it's not from England, UK, it's England, Arkansas, in case you didn't remember that. And we've been around since the 1800s. So we have branches all over the country, and we have a national charter. So I can do a loan here for anywhere around the country using my processors, my closers. So we have a pile of experience doing loans, as well as you get me working for the company that I've been with them 7 years, which is actually pretty long for a mortgage loan officer these days. But I've been doing over 20 years right in this area, handling customers buying second homes, investments, primaries, and first-time home buyers.
Glenn, what do you like about our area, Sarasota, Florida?
Wow, what do I love about Florida? Can you tell that I have a decent tan? So I play golf. And I play beach volleyball. So if ever you're on Siesta Key, come on out and check the courts, and you might see me there playing, and an old man, holding his back while he's playing a little bit of volleyball.
So Glenn, I appreciate your introduction and the introduction of your company. Can you explain to me why it's important that somebody that's moving here from another state or another city to work with a local lender?
Sure. I guess one of the biggest things is, I've been working here for over 20 years, so I've got the local knowledge of everything from the appraisers, the title companies, the attorneys, and I know everything about the fees that are involved, everything from surveys to the closing costs are involved. So when they work with me, they're going to get someone that knows exactly the numbers that are coming through and get what they're expecting.
So what is the basic information that you need to write a pre-approval letter, and can you explain the difference between a pre-approval and an approval letter?
Sure. The difference between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval is that the pre-qualification is a lot simpler, where basically I'm taking the information over the phone. It takes about 15-20 minutes to get the information. Sometimes I have to get some follow-up documentation, maybe a tax return to prove some income. Then I'm going to pull their credit, run the system through an automated program with Fannie Mae, and get them a pre-qualification. If they want the full pre-approval, there's a lot more steps involved in signing applications and sending it to the underwriter. So most people are just going through with a pre-qualification, and that's strong enough to get them to add that to a contract and get the seller to accept the contract.
So Glenn, are there any anticipated fees up front that a buyer would need to anticipate as far as paying for your services?
So as far as fees, we do not charge anything up front. Some of the fees that are going to be involved once you get a contract are going to be things like prepaying for an appraisal. Then you're going to typically get a home inspection. The home inspection might get you some other reports that the insurance company is going to ask for. So we're going to give you some guidance about that along the way, but really no upfront cost to get pre-qualified.
And can you tell me, I know that appraisals right now are being sometimes as much as 30 days once the appraisal's ordered. Some banks, and I know that by working with you in the past, that on occasion y'all have ordered those appraisals at the beginning of the file instead of waiting until it got into underwriting.
So our process at Bank of England is sort of two separate forms. So we work on getting them approved with all their paperwork while we're ordering the appraisal. So while the appraisal is in process, our processors are double checking documents, get in touch with the employer, look at another bank statement, and they're trying to get that approved while the appraisal is happening. So when the appraisal comes back, a couple weeks later, we just add that to the file and finalize the approval.
And can you explain to the people that might be watching this interview why it might be important to somebody that has the cash that they could afford to buy the home? Why would they consider doing a mortgage?
Well, right now with interest rates so low, record lows, most financial planners are telling their customers to not use all their money to buy a house, that they can do so much better in the market with their money that they might as well get a mortgage and have that and do better off in a 2-year, 5-year, 10-year plan.
So Glenn, what do you think somebody's timeline should be if they're thinking about retiring and moving to Florida and buying their first home in Florida?
That's a great question, because I run into that issue all the time where people retire and then they want to qualify for a big house and they may not have the income to do it because we're kind of strict on the banking side. So a lot of times it's worth them trying to buy the second home before they retire. And then if they want to retire a few months later, that's fine. So it's best to talk with a lender up front, tell them everything you're thinking, and then I can help them guide them through the paths to get in the home that they're looking for.
Glenn, do you mind explaining why an investor might be considering buying a property in his name rather than in his corporation, or what the advantages are as far as your lending side of it?
Well, there's a few things that come into play. So if someone's trying to buy in an LLC, which a lot of their advisors like, buy an LLC, it's great for you for liability reasons. But when you create a LLC, it's a company. So you're actually looking for a loan for a company, which doesn't meet sort of the basic Fannie Mae, the everyday guidelines for people buying homes. So when it turns into an LLC, we have to put it into a different program. Rates are going to be a little bit higher. They're going to have to put a little bit more down payment. So in a lot of cases, these people, I tell them, buy it in your own name. It's still going to be a little bit more down payment than buying as a primary home if they're buying an investment, but they'll put a little bit more down. They'll get a rate that's a little higher than a primary home, and then maybe just get a better umbrella policy to cover them. So that's where I leave with them and have them chat with their advisor and attorney to figure out where they want to end up.
Do you have an opinion about whether they should be buying the property in a trust versus their personal name?
So if someone wants to buy in a trust, there's not a big difference in our eyes. We do want to review the trust and make sure that it meets the standard parameters. But other than that, we don't care whether they buy a trust or in their personal name. It's not a big difference on the mortgage side of things.
So next up, we have Heather Andrews. She owns a local insurance agency here in Southwest Florida, and she had a lot of really good input on, different types of insurance and what you'll need in Florida and what can save you a lot of money. So here is Heather Andrews. So Heather, if you could please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your company too.
My name is Heather Andrews. I own the Andrews Insurance Agency. We are a full service insurance agency in Florida. We can do anywhere in the state of Florida. We do in-house servicing. We have over 60 carriers, and we can get you a quote within 24 hours on a business day. And our main thing is to help you understand your quote and what you're getting, and you're not just buying that piece of paper to give to the mortgage so you can buy a house. We want you to understand how you're covered and what will happen in the case of a claim.
Nice. And so for someone who may be out of state or buying a home for the first time in Florida, if they're watching this, what are they most likely to get as far as insurance goes?
So if you're buying a home for the first time, you're going to get homeowners insurance, which includes wind and hurricane, which a lot of people ask if that's included in Florida. I always include wind in all my quotes. And that includes an AOP, which is all other perils. You're also going to get flood insurance if you are in an AE zone. It's required by your mortgage company. If you're in an X zone, it is not required, but it's very affordable and we highly recommend it. But it's your choice if you'd like to have it or not. And usually those are the two. And if you're moving in, you also need auto. We always warn people, don't get sticker shocked with the auto down here. It is a little bit more pricier than the other states, but we make sure to shop and find you the best possible quote that we can.
Nice. And if I'm not mistaken, the policy you might get is going to be dependent upon what you're using the house for. If that's correct, could you go into that a little bit more?
Correct. So a lot of times we just get, can I get a quote for this? Well, there's many different quotes. So you have your primary and secondary, those are HO3s. You have your DP3s, which is a home if it's rented out. And then there's different policies for annual, for weekly, and for monthly. So those are all different policies. And if you have an HO3 and then you decide to rent it out, you will not be covered. So you always have to make sure you have the correct policy. The more information you can tell us about how you're going to use the home, the better we are to insure it properly. So you have to let us know so we can insure it the correct way.
Nice. And I know there are a lot of different things in Florida that are unique, like flood insurance that they're going to have to account for. And a lot of that has to do with the home inspections. Could you talk a little bit about how those two are connected and how it may affect your price as far as insurance is concerned?
Absolutely. So the main thing that we are looking for when we need a quote is if your home is 40 years or older, and some carriers 30 years or older, you must have a 4-point. A 4-point is an inspection that's going to tell us how the 4 main parts of the house are and how they've been updated. So what condition they're in and if they've been updated. So it's going to be roof, AC, electrical, and plumbing. So a lot of times we always have to have a 4-point before we can quote, because we have to know what age the plumbing is, because a lot of carriers will not accept plumbing over 40 years old. We do have plenty of carriers that can, so don't worry about that, but that's going to get us in the right track. Also with a 4-point, it's going to tell us the condition of the roof. We don't want to insure you and then you get canceled a few days later, or actually a few months later, because the roof has curling or granular loss and things like that. So any home over 2006, we recommend a 4-point to make sure that you don't get canceled down the road, and we put you with the correct carrier. There's also a wind mitigation. A wind mitigation is showing how the roof is connected to the home. You have your clips, your nails, your second water, all this goes into discounts. With the wind mitigation, even if you have an older home and we see that you have a wind mitigation, you're gonna get some of the discounts if the new roof's been put on. But also we can see if you still have toenail, we're going to recommend that you go to clips. It's very affordable and it's going to save you about $1,000 a year. So the first year you make your money back. So these are some of the things that we can help make sure that you have the most affordable quote with these inspections. Lastly, if you're in an AE zone, you pretty much have to have an elevation certificate. We can quote you without it, but with an elevation certificate, you're going to get the most affordable quote out there, because a lot of the homes are raised and we want to show that it's raised, and we can do that with an elevation certificate. So even though you're in an AE zone, a lot of people think, oh my gosh, it's going to be so expensive. But if your home is raised properly, it's actually quite affordable. So we want to make sure that we are insuring you the most affordable way we can. And to do that, we have to have those inspections. So you're looking at a 4-point, wind mitigation, and if you're in an AE zone, an elevation certificate.
Could you talk a little bit about how having updated doors and windows, such as hurricane doors and windows, that may provide the house a little more protection? Could you talk a little bit how that could affect the price of the insurance?
Absolutely. So when you get your wind mitigation, it's also telling us how the roof's connected to the house. It also is going to tell us what hurricane protection you have around your home as well. So if all of your windows and openings are hurricane protected, you'll get a discount. A lot of times people are like, I'm going to put all new hurricane windows in, and that's great, but it has to be every single opening, including the garage, the doors, and the little bitty windows on the skylights as well. So if all of those are hurricane protected, you do get a very good discount for those. We even have some carriers that will not insure at all unless you have those. But like I said, we have plenty of carriers. We can definitely get you insured, but our goal is to save you as much money as we can. So if you have either hurricane windows, shutters, the tarps that are hurricane resistant, or any other hurricane protection that has a certified sticker on it that the inspector can take a photo, and it's every opening, you do get a very good discount. And it is the way that we apply it is on the wind mitigation. So it has to have a wind mitigation to apply the discount.
Thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think that's it. One of the biggest things though right now is ever since COVID, it does take a lot longer for us to bind things, and a lot of things have to go through underwriting. So we always recommend that you quote your insurance right after you get your inspections and bind as soon as you can. Also with hurricane season coming up, if there is a hurricane, everyone always talks about the cone, but the cone is an old tale, because now if there's a hurricane out there, a lot of carriers will just shut down altogether. So please get your insurance bound as soon as you can, because if that hurricane does come, you're safe, you're bound. So we want to make sure we get you insured properly, correctly, on time, and not delay the closing. So if you can get us everything we need as soon as we can get you bound, taken care of, then no one's waiting on you or us. So thank you.
Awesome. And how can we reach you? How can someone watching this get a hold of you?
So there's a few ways that you can get a hold of us. You can call us at the office at 941-779-6589. You can email me direct at heather.andrews@theandrewsinsurance.com, or you can go on our website at theandrewsinsurance.com. You can fill out a form to get a quote, and all your information that you need is right there, and we'll get you a quote back the same day.
So next up, we have Bob Massanova. Bob owns SWF Inspections. He started the company years ago, and it's grown to, it's the #1 home inspection company in Southwest Florida, from Naples all the way up to the St. Pete area. And they have over 14 inspectors, and they just do a fantastic job. And Bob works with a lot of the real estate agents here, and he does a phenomenal job, and he's got some really good information. So here is Bob Massanova. Okay, Bob, so tell me a little bit about SWF Inspections. What would you tell me if I had never heard of the company and I was asking you about it?
SWF Home Inspections has been around for 18 years. I started the company as a single-man operation, and we moved it into a now multi-inspector company of 14 inspectors, plus back support in the office.
Wow. So, Bob, I did notice on the website, it does mention that you guys are the #1 company, and it seemed like a very large stretch of land across a few counties. Tell me a little bit about that.
Over time, because we have so many inspectors, we were able to grow in our area. So we cover everything from Tampa all the way to Naples, Marco Island. So we do cover a large stretch. It's probably about a 3-hour drive area. But we're able to get the job done because we have our inspectors strategically located through all the counties, so that when that inspection comes in, we can get it done.
So everybody's pretty close to all these locations.
Yes.
Nice. And it's a really nice stretch of Florida right there too. I think that's probably the most desirable stretch of Florida in my opinion. So tell me a little bit about what types of inspections go down. For someone who might not know much about home inspections, I know there are a lot of different situations and different types of inspections. Could you go into that a little bit?
We perform a lot of different types of inspections. We do everything from pre-construction, which is your phase inspection, where before they pour the concrete, before they put the drywall in, and before you take possession of the house, called the final walkthrough. We do inspections for the buyers to educate you on your home. We do inspections for sellers so that they know what's wrong with their home before they put it up on the market to sell it. Then we also do insurance inspections, wind mitigations, 4-point inspections. We also do sewer cams, pool water loss detection, mold inspections.
Wow.
And if they need asbestos and lead sampling, we can do that for them.
That's awesome. So as someone who's purchasing a home here in Florida, could you go into a little bit about how, performing all these inspections can protect someone like me who is, investing a lot of money in potentially a second home or vacation home?
The biggest thing I tell you when you're purchasing a home and why you do want a home inspection is we're going to educate you. We're going to let you know how all the appliances are, letting you know that things in the home are functioning the way they were intended to function, because Florida is a little bit different than other states. So we do have different codes that we have to look at, that we understand, to make sure that your home has been properly taken care of.
Okay, that definitely makes sense. So could you tell us a little bit about the cost of a home inspection here in Florida in this area?
A home inspection is based on the square footage of the home. So whether it's a 1,000 square foot home or a 16,000 square foot home, there is a price range for each one of the inspections that are being done. We also, as you get into 4,000, 5,000 square feet, we send more inspectors to that inspection so that nobody is there more than 2 to 3 hours, because everybody gets frustrated when an inspection is taken forever. So we want to get in there, get the inspection done, make you feel comfortable and understand what we have done.
Nice. And we're going to have a few ways for people to reach you, but I wanted to give you a chance too. What's the best way for someone to reach you if they're watching this? How can they get a hold of you to inquire about home inspections?
The best thing to do is go right to our website, www.swfhi.com. You can see everything on our website about us. You can also schedule your inspection. Someone from the office will return your call once you schedule online, or you can call the office at 941-493-4334 or 239-330-9910.
Thank you.
So next up is Keith Tanguay. Keith is the owner of Central Park Property Management. It's a property management company. They do annual and seasonal rentals here in Southwest Florida. This is going to be a great little bit for anybody who's thinking of buying like a second property or a vacation home, and they're considering having a company market it and manage it. Central Park Property Management does a phenomenal job with that, and you'll learn a little bit about what they do here with Keith Tanguay. So tell me about Central Park Property Management. If I had never heard of the company before, what would you tell me about it?
Central Park Property Management's been around for approximately 17 years in Sarasota. Many of the owners who came into the program at the inception of the business are still with us to this day.
Okay, so around here, Manatee, Sarasota County, what's like the typical area you guys manage? Where are the properties that you guys have around here?
We manage everything from St. Pete to Longboat Key, Siesta Key, Sarasota, Bradenton, Lakewood Ranch, Venice, Osprey, and Inglewood at this time.
Cool. And do you have like a typical type of home that you guys manage right now, or is it a little bit of everything?
It's all spread out. They could be condos, townhomes, single-family homes, and we also do commercial as well.
Nice. Okay, so let's say I'm an investor. I'm thinking about buying a second property for the first time in Florida. I don't know much about the area. What's the biggest reason I should contact you?
First off, we know the market. So we know the areas when you go in to do research what the rent should be, and we take it from there. So if you're coming to us saying, Keith, we want to buy a unit in X community, I'll tell you what the rent should be for a year. And the costs involved in that. And every year thereafter, when we do lease renewals for our tenants, we do analysis of the market. We go back to the owner and say, this is where we think we should be. Do you want to hold at this rate or do you want to increase it? And we take it from there.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so let's say you are managing one of my properties and it's an annual rental. What does that year look like? Like kind of take me through some of the services that you might provide or that process as my property is being managed by your company.
Sure, once we allocate a tenant and put them in the property, we also, in our lease terms, we require that we go in and do inspections twice a year. What that does is we look around the property, look at all the plumbing and the air conditioning, see if there's any problems that need to be remedied while we're there, and make sure the tenant is preserving the property as well.
Cool, cool. And then I've heard a little bit about some of the technology that you guys are using, and I'm assuming a lot of that has to do with the user and user friendliness and how they can communicate with you guys. Could you touch on that a little bit, just for someone who doesn't really know what that might look like?
Sure, we advertise our property pretty much goes worldwide. We utilize our website and we utilize the MLS. Once a tenant has seen one of our properties, have an interest in one of our properties, they can do everything online. They can do the credit application online, the lease can be initiated electronically, all their payments are done electronically, so everybody can see what's going on.
Perfect. And most important question, top 3 restaurants in Sarasota, Manatee County. What do you got?
My personal favorite is Selva Grill downtown, Walt's Fish Market, and the Columbia on St. Armand's.
Okay, seafood guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, great reason to come down here.
So next up, we have Ryan Featherstone. Ryan is a real estate attorney here in Sarasota. He grew up in Sarasota, went to University of Florida, so definitely a local person, and he definitely gets into the weeds about a lot of really important stuff associated with purchasing a home in Florida. So without further ado, here is Ryan Featherstone.
Good morning. My name is Ryan Featherstone. I'm an attorney in Sarasota, Florida with the law firm of Dunlap and Moran. I was born and raised in Sarasota, Florida, and I've practiced in Sarasota, Florida my entire career. In my 16th year of practice. My personal practice is in real estate law. I focus my practice on residential and commercial real estate transactions, as well as business transactions, purchase and sale of businesses, and off that, pretty much everything that relates to real estate, whether it's contract drafting and negotiation, leases, disputes, you name it. The main focus of my practice is on probably at this especially in this current market, is residential transactions, purchase and sale of homes, primary residences, second homes, investment properties, and all the collateral work that comes with that, whether it's creation of business entities for investment property purposes, leases, all the various issues that arise during a closing transaction. The firm that I work with, Dunlap and Moran, PA, has been in the market 30 years. We're about 13 attorneys strong at this point between our two offices in Sarasota and Lakewood Ranch. Obviously, one of our main focus areas is real estate law, but I would say our other main focus area is estate planning, which encompasses your wills, trusts, probate, powers of attorney, healthcare documentation, guardianships, and then we also have a pretty robust litigation department that has fed a lot of work from both the both the real estate departments as well as the estate planning departments. But we do various other practice areas as well, corporate law being one of them. So that's a little bit about me and the firm, and happy to discuss any topics that you might have.
So Ryan, if you would tell me why somebody would be interested in hiring an attorney to conduct a transaction, because oftentimes people in Florida simply do the transaction through a title company.
Yeah, so obviously in Florida, we have a lot of folks relocating from other states, other countries, which is even more common in this climate. So we do have a lot of explaining to do about the differences between states, because there are vast differences. Some states, the real estate attorney drives the bus on the transaction. Others, it's non-attorney title companies. So and even frankly, folks that are Florida residents have confusion about that. In the state of Florida, the way it works is that if you're closing a transaction, you have a choice. You can either choose a real estate lawyer or firm, or you can use what I call a non-attorney title company. The distinction is that at the end of the day, the goal, the end goal of using either is to get the transaction closed. However, a non-attorney title company is there to close the transaction and does not have a client. They are ethically and legally limited to what their scope of representation is, which is really essentially, for lack of better words, representing the transaction. They can't be a legal advocate for either party. They are there to close the transaction, issue the title insurance, do the documentation, hopefully correctly and competently. However, neither party has actual representation. Now, a lawyer or a law firm that's involved in the transaction does have a client. We are ethically and legally bound to have a client. The client is typically the party that is paying for our representation. So in the contract, obviously, it's clearly spelled out which party to that transaction is selecting the closing agent and paying for those services. That typically, obviously, is the client. When we send out letters at the initiation of a transaction, we define the scope of our representation and clearly define who or what our role is, I should say, to both parties. If a buyer selects us to represent them in the transaction, not only do we close the transaction like a non-attorney title company, but we represent that buyer in the transaction. So should there be any issues related to title, related to survey defects, related to anything, we will represent the buyers as their advocate and ensure that their rights are protected, that their deposits are protected, and that the transaction closes in accordance with the contract. If there's survey defects, title defects, we will timely object on behalf of the buyer regarding that. A non-attorney title company cannot do that. If there are title defects or survey-related defects, the non-attorney title company has a duty to disclose those, but they cannot take a legal position on behalf of either party. They would have to refer that person to an attorney in order to do that. The other huge misconception between the two is that a lawyer either charges more or is going to kill deals. On the issue of cost, that is a complete misconception. Matter of fact, I've been doing this 16 years. I've seen many non-attorney title company title quotes or closing statements where the fees were substantially more than what our firm charges, for example. So the reality is that if you select a lawyer, you're really paying the same, many times less than what you might pay for a non-attorney title company, but you also get the benefit of having that legal representation.
Thank you for that. One of the most confusing things that people call me and ask me about is, how do I take title to the property? I mean, everybody understands that fee simple means that you're buying the property and the building, but can you explain the differences of deeds?
Sure. So when you talk about deeds and vesting of title, at the limited level, or at the base level, it's there's three options. If you're taking title on an individual basis, Mr. and Mrs. Smith are taking title to a property. There's three levels. You can either take as tenants in common, joint tenants with rights of survivorship, or tenants by the entireties. When it's husband and wife, you would want to, I don't see a reason not to, take title other than as tenants by the entireties. And the way we do that in Florida is we vest the title on the deed at Mr. and Mrs. Smith as husband and wife. That language, husband and wife, creates a tenancy by the entireties. And with that come a couple of things. Number one, survivorship rights. If one of the spouses was to pass away, the interest of the deceased party goes to the surviving spouse as a matter of law at the time of death. Nothing needs to be probated. You file a copy of the death certificate in the clerk records, and you're done. The surviving spouse now owns title 100% in his or her name. The other thing that comes with tenants by the entireties ownership is some creditor protection. So the law treats the husband and wife as almost like one unit, like its own entity. So when you're talking about creditor claims, the individual creditors that may attach to either the husband or the wife on an individual basis do not attach to assets that are titled tenants by the entireties, husband and wife. Joint creditors potentially would have a claim, but it would have to be against both the husband and wife. So if the husband has a judgment against him for $5,000 for his credit card bill, that would not attach to assets that are titled as husband and wife. So there's a couple of benefits there when you're talking about marital couples. And that would obviously be always the recommended way to vest title for them. Joint tenants with rights to survivorship is the situation where two folks are taking title together, but they want the same survivorship rights that come with a tenants by the entirety situation, husband and wife, but they may not be married. Fiancés, boyfriend and girlfriend, family, friends, business partners. Anyone who is taking title together where they want that survivorship right included. If one of them was to pass away, God forbid, the deceased party's interest would go to the survivor at a probate at the moment of death. Same as with husband and wife. Tenants in common is the lower level, and that's where, let's say, two folks are taking title together 50-50, but there are no survivorship rights. So again, God forbid one of them was to pass away, that 50% interest would not automatically go to the other party. That 50% interest would then descend pursuant to that person's will. Hopefully they have a will. Or if they don't and they're intestate, then that would be pursuant to the Florida intestacy statutes. That interest would need to be probated because it doesn't have that automatic survivorship rights. But that interest would then descend to the heirs and devisees of that deceased person, and vice versa on the other side. So that's, at its most basic level, kind of the distinction. But of course, in addition to those types of titling, there's all kinds of other options. You can do business entities, LLCs, corporations, etc. Trusts, and there's a variety of different trusts, revocable, irrevocable, estate planning trusts, Florida land trusts. There's a wealth of options when it comes to taking title.
So if I were going to take title to a property and I decided that I'm going to put this in a trust and I don't have a trust, how long would it take you to form a trust? Could that be done during, say, the 30 or 45 day period that you're doing a transaction?
Yes. So when you're talking about trusts, you're talking about, more of the estate planning type attorneys that are involved in drafting wills and trusts. From a personal standpoint, I don't prepare wills and trusts and do that. I have a department at my firm that have attorneys that do that. That is their sole area of practice. But the situation you just spoke of comes up often, whether it's folks that are already here or out of state. The out-of-state situation arises a lot where folks are relocating here. They may be coming here from New York, and they've been residents of New York for years, and so they have all this stuff done. They have wills, they have trusts that have been created in New York, but now they're moving here and they're going to be here full-time and they're going to establish residency here. During closings, we often get asked about that situation. Yeah, is my trust in New York, sufficient? And it may be, it may not be. Florida has very specific homestead laws, and you have to be very cautious when you're making Florida your state of residence and Florida property your homestead, that anything in that trust doesn't violate the Florida homestead laws. So my recommendation in that situation is always to have whatever has been previously prepared, reviewed by our estate planning department, and they will give the guidance, whether it's amending and restating, i.e. starting over with a Florida trust, Florida will, or perhaps just amending what previously exists, codicils and different things like that. If they don't have anything and they're starting from scratch and they want to establish a trust here to take title, we can do that as well. The timing on it is whatever the client need is, but it also involves proactive cooperation by the client. If a client is in the process of getting a loan and doing due diligence on the property, they got a lot on their plate. So they're focusing on getting inspections done, focusing on getting all the information they need to the lender, tax returns and all of that to get approved for the loan. To put that on their plate sometimes is a lot. So sometimes it's something that we try to do after the closing with the cooperation of the lender, because of course the lender, if they're financed, would have to be involved in that. But certainly, yeah, we've done many transactions where we were able to get the trust established, executed, because there's a formal execution process to do that. And then once it's fully signed, executed, etc., then you can vest title in that trust. So absolutely. But I would involve another attorney from my firm if they decided to hire us to prepare the trust, to get involved and sit down with that client, consult with them, and make sure that they have their estate plan squared away.
Ryan, that's some great information. I was wondering if you could just kind of touch on 1031 exchanges. We have a lot of investors that are buying property here and they're interested in sheltering that money, or at least avoiding some capital gains tax by doing a 1031 exchange.
Sure. 1031s are actually becoming a very hot topic again. We get a lot of calls on these emails as well. And, because the market is what it is, a lot of folks with investment properties are trying to sell at the height of the market. And so when you have investment or income producing properties, 1031 is an available option. Additionally, there are some rumors that the 1031 may be going away. So I think people are trying to capitalize on that as well. So of course, the idea of the 1031, which is an IRS code, allows an owner of an income producing property to sell that property. And of course, if they just sold it, nothing else, they would have obviously capital gains taxes. So in order to defer that, you can utilize the concept of 1031, which is you sell the property within certain very specific time frames that are very strict. You have to acquire what's called a replacement property for this property that you sold, which is the relinquished property. And if you do that in compliance with the rules, you do not have any capital gains taxes at that time. It doesn't avoid capital gains taxes, it defers capital gains taxes. So the idea there is when you sell the property, the income producing property, you have 45 days to identify what's called the replacement property, which is the property that you're going to roll the gain into. And then you have 180 days from, and both of these timeframes start from the day of closing of the property you sold. You have 180 days to actually complete the second closing. But again, it can be very complicated. There's specific rules that apply. For example, when you sell the property that is the relinquished property, the funds from that sale cannot go to the seller. If they do, that's called what they call cash boot, and that's taxable. So you have to involve what's called a qualified intermediary or a 1031 exchanger. And that party will then actually escrow those funds for the seller until the replacement property closes. And at the time of the closing of the replacement property, that third party who's holding the funds utilizes those funds for the purchase. They will actually send the funds to the closing agent who closes the replacement property or the purchase. And by doing that, the seller never holds those funds. Since the seller never held the funds, there's no boot and there's no tax. That's the conventional way. There's also reverse exchanges and there's all kinds of stuff. Rules that apply if the property that's sold has a mortgage on it. They have to, the replacement property has to also have a mortgage on it of equal value. All kinds of very nitpicky rules and areas where you can trip up and end up having boot or basically messing up the whole 1031 entirely. So that is why it's very important to utilize the services of an attorney, real estate attorney, as well as a qualified intermediary. We locally use the services of some local qualified intermediaries that have been doing it a long time, that we trust, that we know are going to do it correctly, guide the client correctly as far as holding the funds, and there's a lot of paperwork that goes along with it. But if done correctly, it is a great tool for folks that have investment properties, especially now because they're trying to sell at the height of the market, for deferring those taxes.
Thank you, Ryan. You've given us a lot of information. I think it's just the beginning of some questions. And if somebody did want to reach out to you, how would they do that?
So they can contact me at the office at Dunlap and Moran. Phone number is 941-366-0115. And of course, my email is always available as well. Email address is rfeatherstone@dunlapmoran.com.
Thank you, Ryan, for your time today.
Thank you.
So next up, we have Debbie Henninger. Debbie is a realtor with TeamTurner here at Keller Williams on the Water. Debbie, as a marketer here at the office, I've seen Debbie work. She's a phenomenal realtor. She goes above and beyond pretty much in every aspect of it. She's been in the business for 16 years, and she's just a fantastic person to work with, and a fantastic person to answer any questions you have about real estate. So she's going to go into a little bit more detail about what it's like as a realtor and also just as a person purchasing a home down here. So here is Debbie Henninger.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself, Debbie.
I've been in the business 16 years, mostly with KW, with Keller Williams. And I started in Baltimore, and about 3 years ago, I came down here to start my new chapter in Florida.
Nice. What do you like about this area, specifically the Gulf Coast area, Sarasota, Southwest Florida?
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, I personally live on a boat, so I love the water, I love the shores, and we have the only quartz beach in the world. So why wouldn't anybody want to be here?
Nice. So Debbie, going back especially to the buyer's side of the transaction, really the whole thing. You are a part of TeamTurner, and you've been in real estate for a long time. You've seen a lot of things. What do you see about TeamTurner that's different and beneficial for clients?
Well, I see that it's a leverage for us. It means we can spend more time with our clients because we have a back end covered. So anytime we need something, we can rely on another agent. If we can't possibly be there for that agent, or we have the back end all covered, which means paperwork and stuff like that, which means we're able to go out and fish and find more houses for the buyers, or we're able to give some extra time. And some of the listings, some of the owners, the sellers need hand holding. So that gives me the availability to do that too.
Nice. And can you go into more depth about like hand holding and some of the ways when your time is freed up that you can assist people?
Well, a lot of the hand holding, some of the people that live here obviously have lived here a long time, and I'm currently working with some sellers now, and they're in their 70s and they really don't know what to do. So I've been out there a lot, and even I call on some of the team to go out and help me on a couple of things. So I've asked Gary himself to go out and help me and cover because I was busy on something else, and he was more than happy to do so, which is great that we can rely on our team to do that. So some of it's hand holding. I've also taken this couple the extra step all the way to Jupiter, which is a 3.5-hour ride over to find a house for them and a 3.5-hour ride back on the same day because they felt uncomfortable in driving. So I felt that, that's the extra step that our team gives.
That's awesome. And so like we've interviewed Keith Tanguay, and we've talked to Gary about some of his contracting experience in Pegasus General Contractors. Can you talk about like the benefits, now that we have all these resources and we have a contracting company, we have a property management company, what does that mean to a buyer? And how does that help them? How is that attractive to them?
It's great. It's to a buyer and a seller because we have a one-stop shop, and that's what I tell everyone. I say, welcome to TeamTurner, and we're a one-stop shop, which means we have a builder that can help your needs. We have a construction person who can help your needs. We also have property management in our team, so if they need managing. And we also have investors. Not only ourselves are investors, but we also have an investing group. So, and along with seller agents and buyers agents. So we are your one-stop shop.
Nice.
That was great.
That was fantastic. Yeah. Do you got anything?
I was gonna go like this, but I figured I better not. You know me, yeah, I do the happy dance whenever we do something. Whenever we get something good, we do the happy dance.
All right, guys, that wraps it up. The most important thing I wanted to stress is that this is just the beginning. These people have all made themselves very available for you to call. We've left all of their information below. If you're watching this on YouTube, I will include each one of their names and all of their contact information as well as their websites below. Just check that out in the link. If you're watching this on our website, it will also be below. And I can't stress enough, please reach out to these people. They've made themselves available for you. They want to help you. And this is just the beginning. Please do not hesitate to call me, contact Gary. We would be happy to work with you. There's a lot of things we can do remotely. All the agents here are doing, FaceTime or video showings to kind of get the ball rolling and help you out in this market. So thanks for joining us, and we can't wait to speak with any of you directly.